we're gonna make orange sourdough scones. Are you ready? Because I'm ready. Let's get to it. Okay, our first thing is going to be Big Bertha sourdough, a half a cup or 130 grams. So whatever you want to do is fine with me. But I'm going to use my half a cup. And we're going to make some orange scones. And it's going to be so good. Okay, here we go. So that was 1/2 of a cup. Okay, well, maybe a little bit more. Okay, here we go. So this is our wet ingredients, which is fine. So we will put them in this big bowl. All right, 1 egg. 1 egg. And before this video, I zested my orange and I squeezed 1 orange out into my bowl. I also grated my butter and put it in the freezer for the pastry part of the thing. So I'm just taking my sourdough starter, discard, and my 1 egg, and I'm just combining them. Then I'm going to combine that 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla with that 1, and I usually just eyeball it if I don't have my half out. Okay, then 3 tablespoons of freshly squeezed orange juice, or you can also substitute the 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla for more orange juice if you desire to. So I'm gonna do 3 tablespoons of orange juice. 1, 2, looks like it's almost perfect. 3 exactly. Okay, perfection. So 3 tablespoons of that. And then 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. And that will consist of all of our wet ingredients. 1 and 2. So 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. And then I'll mix all that together and I'll set it aside. And then we'll mix up our dry ingredients. Okay, so that's all of our wet ingredients. So set that aside. Boom. Now, dry ingredients, here we go. We got flour. Now, this is just all-purpose flour. I have not used bread flour for scones, to each your own. So, 2 cups of flour. 1 and 2. My son is playing a video game, so just ignore that. 2 tablespoons of flour. No, you need a little bit more than that. So 2 cups of flour, a 1/2 cup of sugar. Where's my sugar? There it is. A 1/2 cup, and I think this is a 1/2 cup. That's 1/3 of a cup. So we'll just eyeball it with the 1/2 cup. A little bit more. A little bit more. 1/2 cup of that. 1/2 cup of flour. So I'm gonna put that together, and then 1 tablespoon of baking powder. 1 tablespoon. Oh, darn it. I don't have another tablespoon on. But I do have a 1/2 tablespoon, and that will work. So we have 1 tablespoon of baking powder. Baking powder, not soda, okay? So we're gonna stir that together. So we got our flour, our salt, which we didn't do, so I'll add the salt. Okay. So we have 1, it's about, it says a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then we have 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and then we have 2 cups of flour, a 1/2 cup of sugar, 1 stick of butter. I didn't add that. And then 2 tablespoons of orange zest. So I will add that now. So 1, I'll just add the whole thing because it's about a little bit over 2 tablespoons. So that'll be perfect. So 2 tablespoons of orange zest, and we're just gonna maneuver that together, okay? Now comes the fun part, where we get the frozen butter out and we just mix it gently. So here's our frozen butter. We're just going to gently, we don't want to hold the butter for too long because it'll start to melt. And I did grate the butter before this, so what we want to do is add a little and then just put it, make sure that it gets whole floured, and then add a little bit more, flour it up, basically so that all the butter is floured. So we'll just keep doing that over and over until all of our butter is in there. We don't want to get our hands super in there for too long because the butter will start to melt. Or you can also pastry cut the butter in there if you want, but this is just easier for me. So I'll add the rest of my butter. I'll scrape it out. Maybe a glass bowl probably would have been a little bit easier. Okay, so we're gonna just do that, okay? And then after this, we're going to add in our wet ingredients to this bowl. And we're gonna just gently stir it. And then if it's too loose, if it's too loose, we just add a little bit of flour. And then if it's if it's not wet enough, then we add a tiny bit of the heavy cream in there. So I'm just gonna mix this here with my handy dandy spatula. Try to incorporate as much of the flour before I put it out on the surface of my thing here. And this way also, so we're just mixing it together, making it nice and like that. Making it nice and like that, yeah. So here we go. See how it's kind of coming together? And there's less and less flour crumbles in there. That's what we wanna see. So we don't wanna, you can do this by hand, by whatever floats your boat, but I don't want the butter to melt too much. So after it kind of looks like this is when I usually turn it onto my floured surface here, and I just kind of flour it just slightly, and then I just put this on there. So I keep all of my ingredients here, and then I just shape it into a little ball. Not a ball, a little disc, like a little circle, right? So, oh, this dough feels wonderful. The last scones I made was just way too wet. So I'm gonna flatten it out. I usually flatten it out, I don't know, maybe to like about 1 inch or so. My other scones were really, really thick, and I really liked that. So I guess it's just personal preference. Okay, so that looks good. Make it a little circle. See all the orange? It smells wonderful. Okay, so, all right. So now we're gonna take my little bench scraper and we're gonna cut it. So what I like to do is cut it in half first, and then half again. Oh, clearly that was not half, but whatever. And then I like to just cut them in thirds in each little section, and try to get about the same size. Obviously this needs to be trimmed a little bit more. Not doing very good with my eyeballing stage. Ooh, look at that one's huge. Okay, so now I'm gonna wash my hands and I'm gonna put parchment paper on my baking sheets, which I should have done earlier, but here we are. All right, then we're just gonna take our scones that we cut and we're just gonna put them on there. So I like to, oh boy, try to take them and kind of like to make them go in opposite directions, but that's just personal preference so that I can get the most use of my area. These ones are a little thinner than I think I usually do. I think I like them a little bit thicker than this, but We shall see. And I think I'm gonna cut that one, because that one's super thick. So, yeah. Try not to have humongous pieces. So, and you don't want them to touch because they do get bigger. So you don't want them to be like gigantic and touching and all that jazz. All right, so here we go. So then we're also gonna make an orange glaze for these orange scones, because I think that would be super yummy. All right, scones, we'll put them in the fridge for 30 minutes, then we'll get them out and put them in our 400-degree oven. So our orange sourdough scones have been sitting in the fridge for 30 minutes. So I put some heavy whipping cream in a container and put like a squeeze of orange juice in there. Now this is not what the recipe says to do, but this is what I've done with the other the other scones that I made, and it turned out really, really yummy. So I just brushed that on there, and then I'm gonna stick them in the oven at 400 degrees for about 15 minutes. I'm gonna keep an eye on them. And then what you could do here is you could add a little bit of sugar on top if you want, or I'm gonna make an orange glaze, and that will just consist of powdered sugar, a little bit of heavy whipping cream, some orange zest, some orange, a little bit of orange juice, freshly squeezed orange juice, and that's about it. So this is what I usually do. Drench it in heavy whipping cream and pop it in the oven for 15 minutes at 400 degrees, and we'll see how they come out.